Hello, thank you for joining our session. My name is Maggie Pickett. I'm a Senior Technical Assistance Specialist here at CAST. Work primarily on the Center on Inclusive Technology and Education Systems, better known as CITES. I'm here with my colleague today, Christine Fox. Christine, you want to tell a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, Maggie. Thank you. And excited to be here. My role here at CAS is Project Director and Senior Technical Assistant Specialist. I am first and foremost a teacher. Professionally, my background is an educator, and I've spent the bulk of my career in educational technology, working in the nonprofit space, supporting professional learning and research and background about that. And I'm excited to be here to be a part of this work and to be working on site, bringing together educational technology leaders and assistive technology leaders to support all students.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. I love hearing your background. It actually kind of reflects my background a little bit. The bulk of my background is I got started with assistive technology early in my career. I was a speech language pathologist, and I was tapped to be on this AT team, the assistive technology team. And little did I know that it was going to shift the course of my career forever. And so like you, I'm excited to be here today at the UDL IRN Summit, kind of really sharing what is CITES and the work that we're doing at the center. So let's get started.
Great.
All right, so our title for the session today is Building Systems for Inclusive Teaching and Learning with the CITES Framework. Just to get this out of the way, we have a couple of commitments here. The first one is our commitment to accessibility. Our organization, CAST, is committed to providing accessible resources, materials, websites. Anything that we provide to you should be as accessible as possible. If you do run into barriers accessing our resources, please let us know. Our contact information is at the end of the slide deck. The other thing we wanted to share with you is that all the resources that we share with you are openly licensed. So we have a Creative Commons license here. And so please feel free to take and use as you wish and remix and remake as you need. Another somewhat of a disclaimer, who would benefit from this session? I think we would have a lot of participants that would benefit from this session that are attending the conference, but we did want to just get a couple of things clear. This session is all about systems change. And so if from your position, if you're interested in systems change, or if you're making systems change happen in your district, this session is for you. So it might be district or building leaders, instructional coaches, state leaders, and other leaders, leadership positions. But if you're an educator in the classroom and you're interested in systems change, you might have a few takeaways today too. So welcome to anybody. And for today, we have a discussion page, a place where we can really kind of discuss and engage. This is an asynchronous session, so you are all watching this in your own time, in your own space. So we wanted to provide an opportunity for you to interact with us, but also interact with others who are participating in the session today. So let's take a peek at what that meeting logistics or discussion page looks like. When you click on that bit.ly or enter it into your web browser, this is what you'll come up with. You'll see we'd love to hear and know who's attending our session today. So please provide your name, and if you want to stick an email in there, your district or organization, and describe to us your role. Like, what do you do? That could be your title. That could be just what you're responsible for. A couple of things about navigating this page, though. You'll see right now I've got it blown up so you can see the whole page just for logistic purposes. But over here, if you're not familiar with this pane, this is the navigation pane. If you're not seeing this little 3 dots and 3 lines, looks like a bullet point list, this is your document outline. If you're not seeing this, you can go up to View in Google and say, Show Document Outline. When you have that checked, then you have this option to actually see the outline of the document. This number 1 is a great accessibility strategy. This provides a structure so that a screen reader user can navigate through the document really easily. But for me, it just helps me navigate really quickly from a component of the document. So here's kind of the getting to know you page, if you will. But under here in the document outline, you can see materials and links. If you click on that, it takes you directly to this page. And from the materials and links section, you can see all the slide decks, all the websites, all the links that you might need for today are embedded right here. So anytime we reference a link from the slides, they're going to be available on the slides, but they'll also be linked here. The next thing to familiarize yourself with, we've got a couple of prompts during our session today. And so every time you see, and I'll show it to you in just a second, every time you see a little turquoise bubble with a question mark in it, that tells you and us that there's a discussion prompt and an opportunity for you to tell us what you're thinking on this page. Then we'll get into some other things later. The last thing I wanted to bring your attention to before we get started is this parking lot. This is a space, because we're not interactive, because we're not together in a space, this is a place where if your thoughts aren't fitting within the structure of the reflections that we're providing, this is a place where you can come in and put those other thoughts into a space where we can come back and address them. And if you want us to reach out to you and help answer or walk you through and have some collaborative time together, go ahead and put your email next to your comment or your question that you have. That'll trigger us to connect with you that way. All right, so let's get back to the slide deck. Christine?
Yes. So our objectives today, we're excited to first and foremost share what is CITES and how that you understand the framework itself. Then also, we want you to understand how it has been developed and the level of implementation at this point on the pieces of that framework. And then identify next steps for your district, thinking about the inclusive technology systems that are in place already and where you are and where you would like to go. So in the spirit of engaging, and there's our little question mark that Maggie referenced and shared earlier. We would like you to pause for a moment and think about what your goals are for the session. And you can go ahead and write them in that chat or in the document. So before we share this short video, I want you just to share a little bit about what is CITES. And CITES is a framework that's being developed. And a bit of background, we're in our 4th year of this project. And it's really considered a center. It is sponsored and funded by the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Special Education. And specifically, we are working to create an evidence-based practices to help instructional technology, assistive technology, educational technology leaders. As Maggie referenced at the beginning of the session, we want to talk about systems change. So the leadership in your district, in your school building, to understand how to collaborate and work together to support learner success. And that framework will include 5 specific topic areas that we'll dig into a little bit later. And we work to provide with that evidence-based resources, examples of districts where things are working, and it's all developed on our website, but it is a work in progress. So we're in year 4. We will finish not until October 2023, and things are still evolving and working and being developed over time. Core districts that we're working with are testing things out. And so know that it is a work in progress, but our ultimate goal is that districts throughout the country will be using this on a regular basis to increase their collaboration so that there is seamless integration of assistive technologies and educational technology. So with that, we're going to watch this short video clip to hear from some of the team members that have already started this process.
Technology becomes the avenue for access to learning for a lot of our students with individualized needs. And if we begin collaborating from the beginning, then we have an opportunity for us to talk about how that fits and could benefit all of our learners.
We have a lot of people that are all working together to make technology work for kids. We know that the work that we do often can become siloed. We get into the work and keep doing what's right in front of us. The problem with that is that we don't see in other people's lanes. The CITES framework offers opportunity for district teams to collaborate and have those conversations so that all students with disabilities being supported in Gen Ed can have the supports, scaffolds, and tools they need to be and feel successful.
One of the things the CITE framework does, because it brings people together, it helps foster relationships. And with relationship building, there's greater awareness, there's better problem solving. It's sort of like the first step in this wonderful path to make things better for students in every way.
The CITES experience is about having a partner to help build the momentum around assistive technology. So getting someone to ask those really critical research-based questions, going through the experience of self-assessing, calibrating, and reflecting, and then not just saying, well, here's an area of growth, good luck, but CITES has that knowledge and experience to come forward and say, well, you've identified this as an area of growth. Here is a key conversation you should be having. Here are some people that really need to be at the table for this conversation.
I would definitely say, because we've had stronger collaboration with our EdTech, assistive technology, Gen Ed, and IT, it has given our assistive technology department so much more time to be able to work in meaningful ways, and specifically work with students with really complex needs, which we didn't always have that time for, and also create community partnerships.
Because of the CITES name, because of the CAST name, because of the amount of research and vetting and credibility that comes along with these organizations, I felt confident saying they're not going to lead me astray. If I follow these guidelines, if I follow these suggestions, if I tune in for these CITES tips, I'm going to get going in the right direction.
And, it's just really raising the bar in learning. So I would definitely say there's a direct correlation between the better collaboration we're having and student outcomes, particularly for those with special needs. Like our instruction, our curricula is so much better as a result of that.
So if you think that you could benefit from a little more collaboration or some really intentional conversation starters, grab a colleague and go check out the CITES website, cites.cas.org. Take a look at the framework, the different practices, and see where your district could get started.
I love being able to see how specific districts share their stories. Our resident Hollywood star here, Maggie, sharing her thoughts in the video, but it's a great way to be able to reflect on the value of CITES, the power of bringing people together, and to give a quick snapshot of what this project is and what it's about. And with that, we're going to dive into the goal of the project, which we've highlighted a bit already, but it really is, at the end of the day, to create an ongoing inclusive technology ecosystem that benefits all students with disabilities, those with disabilities and those without disabilities, because there are so many accessibility features that can benefit all students, whether they have a 504 plan or an IEP, they're second language students. There are accessibility features that can benefit so many students for different reasons at different times, just in time, depending on their needs. And so we're fostering that collaboration with EdTech, assistive technologies, and informational technology to be purposeful and meaningful moving forward. And you can see that right now, as many of you know, there are still silos within all of the powerful people that are working in education to support children. And we see all those little beautiful colored pieces of clay, but they're working kind of independently as symbolized here. But when they come together, they create these beautiful pieces of art. And that is our goal, helping all children learn with a supportive, collaborative system. In that way, all students are supported in these pieces of clay kind of symbolize that inclusive technology. Having said that, school systems are not the only part of a child's learning process and experience. Families are at the center, as noted here, and they are a critical part of the process. Earlier today, we were meeting with a couple of the districts that are CITES development districts, and they were talking about how, as part of their CITES teams, they have a parent of a student with special education needs, and those parents are so critical in sharing the needs of their students and having that voice. And so at the core of CITES, you won't see it just yet on our website. We are in the process of developing family resources and including that family voice within the CITES framework. So we're going to pause again for a moment just to let you think about, what does inclusive technology in education look like, feel like, and sound like? When you think about walking around your building, your classroom, your school district, where do you see inclusive technology working effectively, and how does that happen, and how does it feel when it's working well?
Okay. And if you want to pause and take time to move over to that discussion page, please feel free to do so. We're going to keep going here, but if you'd like to engage in that discussion document later after the session, you can kind of choose how you want to engage with us and the other session participants. So now that we've provided maybe a foundation of what CITES, the center, is and does, and what our goals are, now we want to provide you a little foundation regarding the CITES framework. So the foundation of the CITES framework, actually at its birth, we started to think about how can we structure this framework? How can we structure all of these concepts that we need to be moving with? And so we looked at the National Ed Tech Plan. So the National Ed Tech Plan was published in 2017. And within this plan, we really allow the opportunity to look at things that within educational technology are really reframing education and the forward motion and future educational opportunities that technology allows. What it does is it mentions universal design for learning. The National Ed Tech Plan mentions accessibility, but it doesn't provide a how-to or any guides as to how to do those things and make those things work within the district. And so the framework, the CITES framework, is really allowing us a chance to really enhance the National Ed Tech Plan and provide some action steps and some ways for systems, districts, to really think about and move toward building inclusive technology systems. And they do that within 5 areas. So the National Ed Tech Plan has these 5 areas outlined, and they dive deep into all of the context within the National Ed Tech Plan. So we aligned the CITES framework to those 5 areas and those categories within the National Ed Tech Plan. Those are leadership, infrastructure, teaching, learning, and assessment. So as we started to develop this framework, we had the categories, we had kind of that foundation, the buckets, if you will, that these practices kind of are developed from. The way that we dove into the process was we first conducted literature reviews. So we looked at the area of leadership, and we looked at what's the literature, what does the literature say about good leadership around digital learning, around educational technology, around assistive technology, and inclusion. And then we moved out into districts to see exemplar districts and what they were doing. and conducted landscape analysis. We talked with our advisors and we looked at some of their best practices that they've identified. Then we identified the practices based on those two things, and we took the practices as we found them and developed them, and we took them and moved them out into some districts to implement. Christine shared earlier, those districts that we are kind of working with and walking through this process with, and they're working through the process and implementing, and then on the back end, after they've implemented, we come back and kind of iterate and refine the framework. This is actually graphic of where these districts are located across the United States. And so our framework development districts are those folks who are implementing the framework. Those folks are located in California, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, South Carolina, and Connecticut. And those districts that we refer to as our knowledge development districts, the folks that we went out and did that landscape analysis with and really looked at exemplars of some of these practices, are in the more goldenrod color and scattered all across the United States. If you're interested in more information about these districts and who they are, please visit our website, cites.cas.org, and there's a page there under the More tab that you can figure out or learn more about those districts. So let's dig into it. We're going to set this up so that we can give you opportunity to really kind of look at some of the leadership practices and teaching practices and kind of start thinking in a way. So let's do it. All right. So first we're going to dig into leadership. What we heard our districts say loud and clear is that had they not identified and moved through these leadership processes from the get-go, they never could have implemented other parts of the framework. And so I know our session today really identified teaching and learning practices, but what we understand based on that implementation is that systems change at this level with this work is really impossible unless we start with leadership. So we wanted to dip our toe here and give you opportunity to kind of think about some of those practices first. So now we're going to hop over and visit cites.cast.org. That's our website. And it's as simple as that to pull up, cites.cast.org. And this is our home page. So when you input, either click from that discussion page, or you click on the slides and enter, or you enter cites.cast.org in the web browser. This is our home page. This is what you'll see. From here, just a little quick overview of kind of some of the navigation opportunities. Up on this top navigation bar, you're going to see those areas of the framework. We're going to come back to that in just a second. But here on the homepage, you're going to see a lot of opportunities to engage with some of the information. In the What's New section, those are things that are new that we're putting out. As Christine mentioned, we're consistently putting out new information, things that we've learned, new resources. And so anything new that we get, we're going to try to put here. Also see that video that we shared a little bit ago. That video, if that sparks some interest or sparks some thoughts for you, and you're like, hey, I want to share it with somebody, you can come here and just share the website and push them to the website, have them watch the video right from here. And down below, this is another way to navigate to the different components of the CITES framework down here, but we're going to scroll all the way back up to the top and head to leadership because that's the section we're looking at. So once you come to the leadership overview page, this is just kind of a landing space, and it really starts to look at all of the different practices. We're not going to dive into this. What we're going to do is we're going to allow you to engage with some of this yourself, but I do want to show you a couple of things to help you, help guide you through your learning and your exploration of these tools and the framework. So this page has a little bit of language. These are the actions under the leadership, or these are the practices, the leadership practices. We're gonna explore those in just a second, but on this page, there's a nice little introductory video. Then we have a framework field guide. This field guide is an actionable reflection document for you or your partners to kind of work through as you're working through the website. It's almost like a tandem, truly a field guide. You guys are out in the field doing this work. It's meant to really kind of walk you through how to implement some of these things. And so as you scroll through, a lot of the information is the same on what you'll see on the website, but it does offer some opportunities to take some notes and type right in the document. So you can capture all of the thoughts that you have as you're moving through the field guide and the website. Another really great, useful tool are the leadership practices. So all of those 5 leadership practices that we had mentioned earlier have a self-assessment tool, a way for you to kind of put a dipstick into your practices, into your system, and see where you're falling out as far as how you're developing inclusive technology systems. And so this document really provides you with number one, some directions on how to utilize this self-assessment, and then it walks you through the practices one by one. So this is the document that as we move forward today, we hope that you'll come back and explore and really start to work through yourself to see where your district is measuring up. Let's hop back over into the slides. So what is inclusive technology or leadership within an inclusive technology system? Christine mentioned earlier that our goal is really to build these systems that connect between educational technology, assistive technology, IT, and really create systems that work together. And what we're learning is that it isn't always just those 3 entities. Again, we learned from some of our partners today that as they're looking at accessibility of assessments, it might be that time for some of you to start thinking about our assessments, right? They were like, oh my gosh, we don't know what we don't know about assessment. And so they pulled in their assessment coordinator in their district and started to have conversations with that representative as part of the CITES team and CITES work that they're doing to build these inclusive technology systems. So as much as the leadership work is really meant, and the goal of CITES is meant to think about building inclusive technology among these 3 groups, it's really about building inclusive systems that ensure that their technology is working. And to do that, because technology is really implemented across district leaders and across the district, we really need to think more broadly about who is part of this team. In fact, that actually is one of the practices. So these are the leadership practices outlined here on the slide. There are 5 of them. I'm not going to read them, but again, going back to that self-assessment tool that was mentioned just a little bit ago, there's opportunity for you to go in and really think about these practices, and there are actions under each one of these practices that allow you to really take a reflective opportunity to think about where you're measuring up. So again, we've got the little question mark bubble. So we're going to encourage you to either pause right now or go out, bookmark that self-assessment and come back to it later, but really work through that self-assessment. Reflect on your current practices as far as developing inclusive technology systems and these leadership practices. And then as you're thinking about that and reflecting, if you would, and again, to engage us, to engage other participants, go back to that discussion document and input any thoughts, any ahas, any questions that you had as you were working through that reflection process. So now would be the time to pause if you want to conduct that self-assessment now. Otherwise, we're going to keep moving forward. So again, a few things that we've learned as our partner districts have been implementing. And Christine, we heard this earlier today. This takes time. I think I heard both Sam and Samantha and Tiffany say that. What did you think? You're new to this project. So what did you think when they said, for the first 6 to 12 months, we really didn't know what we were doing?
Yes, I mean, both of the districts, one in Oklahoma and California, they said the first 6 months for sure, they were just having faith in the process of creating a team. Completing the leadership self-assessment was eye-opening for them. And they didn't realize the different perspectives that folks had. Then as they went through the self-assessment process, the way that they ranked things, some people say the highest ranking is 20. There were a lot of 17s. Everyone's feeling good. And then someone would come in with a 6. So then they'd have to set up a whole other meeting. So that would push everything out to taking more time, to the point of the slide. So it is definitely a marathon. It is not a sprint, but the mindset has really shifted, and I think they feel comfortable right now. They're working on their self-assessment on assessment, and that has now brought and expanded their teams, because they realize, what, we need someone from the assessment department to be part of this discussion, not just during assessment season that's upon us, but throughout the rest of this process. The other thing that Tiffany mentioned from Grossmont was that they've made a commitment to every year reviewing their technology plan as they come across things. So it is an ongoing process that is not completed overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I lost my mouse. There we go. And you just mentioned bringing more people into the team. This takes collaboration, and I'm guilty of this too. I know when I was an AT specialist, or even a speech language pathologist, or even in my time as a consultant or a coach, you just go and do what you can get done, and you get done as much as you can, just because we are all stretched for time. But when we think about systems change, it can't be done by one person. And I think our districts today, again, they really elevated that message that this is a team thing. Were there anything that stuck out in our conversation with them earlier today that would really kind of speak to this? I know there was one thing about a parent that was a really, really important piece that I found really valuable.
For sure. And the level of collaboration and the support from the leadership, from the superintendent and the board is so critical, so that they have the time for the collaboration. And in those regular meetings, someone mentioned earlier that sacred time, that it's not just a nice to have, we may get this meeting in, but now it is this dedicated time that they are committed to the collaboration, and they're not purchasing things without collaborating. It is a commitment that they don't waver on, and you can see that is a change in mindset.
Absolutely. And start where you are. I think this is a big one. I just said, this can't be a one-person show, but sometimes it is just you carrying a flag, right? Or you and your partner next to you, really thinking and wanting to implement new things, and really think about how can we be have more inclusive practices within our technology system. And so I think there are ways, and I can't remember if it was Samantha or Tiffany, but somebody said, it's okay. It's okay if you start with 2 people. It's okay if you start with 3 people. Pretty soon, you're just going to keep doing these things and keep spreading the message, and people are going to come into the fold and really start to buy into the message that you're sharing around the needs that you see and these practices and how we can shift them.
Yeah. And we're going to jump over to the teaching practices, because that's the ultimate goal, right? That teaching and learning opportunities change for the students. So the leadership has to trickle down into the classroom so that the students' experiences on a regular basis are changing. And that is another area of the framework that has really been worked on, and that we're continuing to refine, of course, but we're digging into, and we want to be able to show you a little bit about what's available online. And so Maggie's going to share. Similarly, in the teaching section, also a part of the National Ed Tech Plan, we have resources that are available. We try to be very consistent in the framework to have specific examples of how you can support and impact the teaching practices, and then have that self-assessment available. And of course, the specific examples. And I, personally, any resource that has that vignette or that story that you can hear from boots on the ground of where things are in action is so powerful. And they take time to pull together. But I will say these are 2 to 4 pagers. So they're not dissertations, which is nice. You can share them at a team meeting. You can, have a quick discussion about them. You don't have to, it's nice to share them in advance, but it's something you could push out and let people read on site and have a discussion about, within an hour time frame without worry. So these are great ways to talk about those inclusive technology systems and in the teaching side, and also how teachers can leverage and feel okay about leveraging assistive technologies for all of their students, and not feel guilty. I've heard that a lot since I've been here, that teachers kind of feel guilty about the fact that some students are using assistive technology. They might not have to have them, but it's okay. It really is okay. We see the students as learners. They probably will explore and decide what are the right things for them to use, what makes sense as tools that they appreciate. Some things they might feel that certain assistive technology tools get in their way. Other things are really beneficial for them. So teaching them to learn and understand their learning styles is so critical, and getting them to know when and how the best ways to use those is very important. And so teachers modeling the use of the technology tools, teachers encouraging the students to leverage those tools on a regular basis, and then having the students teach each other and show and model for their colleagues, their fellow classmates, can also be very powerful. As noted here, the fact that when educators are proactive, they're giving specific instruction, removing barriers for your students. And I think that goes without saying that all teachers really want students to be able to learn and unobstructively. They want to be able to access the information. As a second language teacher, I always struggled with students that were excelled at math, and then they really struggled with word problems because they didn't know, their reading skills were not up to the same level as maybe some of their English speaking colleagues. And so we know with math, that's an easy example where, reading can impact your math. And so if using a screen reader can help support those math skills, that might be just one simple way of supporting those students. So removing barriers to help students succeed is so important. You as leaders in districts, most of you or many of you will be those systems change leaders, supporting that student-centered learning opportunities, providing the technology skills, which comes with professional development, of course, ongoing opportunities, and then developing those technology competencies. So having teachers practice, giving them the tools they need, seamless access to those tools on and off campus will help change their practices and the way they model, and in turn, the way their students are leveraging the technology on a regular basis.
So this is another opportunity to go into that reflection, that discussion document, look at the teaching self-assessment, and really kind of think about, okay, where are we at within this process as a system, as a district? So again, you can take time now and pause us and take time to go complete that, or if you want to keep pushing through and do that later at the end. But just be sure to really engage with that document with us and with our other partners and participants today.
Yes, thank you, Maggie. The self-assessment is so important, and the ability to reflect on where your teachers are and where you want them to go, because you're all going to be in different places. And then the level of support those teachers need is going to be different. So. And again, it does take time. Having the right tools in place takes time. Providing the professional development takes time, and then changing teaching practices. Whether it's an educator that's been in the classroom for a long time and has to shift, or someone that completed student teaching but maybe didn't have access to these technology tools and assistive technologies and didn't have exposure to that. It's going to take them time. So patience is a virtue. And I think if you know that people have the right intentions and they're showing increment progress is most important. And that way, that's why a self-assessment shouldn't be a one and done. And even throughout the CITES process, the framework districts take the self-assessment more than once, because one, they're helping support the framework and us understanding where things are working, but also it's good for them to kind of see where they were and where they're going. And we would encourage you, put a line in the sand to say, okay, we took the self-assessment, it's April of 2022. When are we going to revisit this and kind of see where we are in a chunk of time, and then where we need to go?
Yeah. And, I think about, it takes time. It takes time to set up systems. It takes time to change professional development opportunities. It takes time to change professionals' practices. And so to build a system to support teachers in doing that and really focusing on what their role or what they perceive their role to be within providing these inclusive technology classrooms, right? It absolutely takes time.
And mindset is such a big thing. We hear about open mindset so much these days. It's a philosophy. It's a consideration. I have 2 teenage girls. I'm talking all the time about yet. We haven't gotten there yet. You maybe haven't mastered pre-calculus yet. And so these are things that it's a process for your district, your school, classrooms, and changing the mindset of your team. And the educators on that will take time, but that mindset, showing successes, sharing the examples and the case stories within the framework can be really helpful. And we're going to talk a minute about our community of practice, but there'll be great ways to come and learn and hear stories from others that can help build that open mindset.
Absolutely. And part of that mindset, and it's true, Christine, you mentioned it earlier. As you mentioned, they feel guilty providing these tools to students. I've also heard some of my teachers think that if I provide these tools to any kid, or if I provide these tools even to a student with a disability, that it's cheating. And so some of these things take time to overcome, right? Going back to that, it takes time to really provide opportunity to sift through some of these mental maps that folks have created over an entire career. And so be gentle, and then that, I think, maybe leads us into the next one. Maybe celebrate when we do start to see shifts in that mindset. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I do. And tell us about it, because we want your case story. We want to highlight your school or district. We want to hear about those successes, as small or large as they might be, that we're building this framework, and we love to know and be able to celebrate with you. And the learning portion is still being built out, but we wanted to share the fact that it is in process, and we go through the same process for each part of this, of doing a literature review, working with knowledge development districts, looking for those case stories and examples of where things are working. But you'll see on the website that it is not as robust yet, having that open mindset, so that we come back soon, I will say, to see how all of that is built out over time. And we do have, though, a blog, 5 things, blog series to share a bit and have some resources where there are leaders, both from all sides, assistive technologies, ed tech, and the IT district leaders, sharing what we have so far. And so we want to make sure that you are aware that we are on it. We are listening and learning and building out that section. So here's your special question mark. You might take a moment to pause and think about, what are your next steps? Where are you? Where is your district? Where do you want to go? You can go back to the document and think about that. And you might want to pause the video and kind of dig in. But if not, you can then you can think about that and go back to your planning process at a future time. So I briefly mentioned the community of practice. The community of practice is open to any school district leader, and we have a bit.ly here. It's also in the document as well. You can sign up. We have quarterly meetings, so you will be invited to those. Or Zoom meetings. We focus on a particular topic. It's a great way to meet other leaders that are interested in the same types of conversations. We have an open Slack channel where you can pose questions, share examples, and then we also have some social media networking as well. And then we'll just leave you with this positive thoughts from Dr. Joy Zabala, a true leader in the assistive technology space, who once shared, "I used to think I was passionate about assistive technology. What I learned is I'm very passionate about participation and learning. So this is not about the technology. This is about the people's lives, living and learning, and the functions that have to do with that. And that is where the passion lies." And I'm sure that you're all very passionate about your students and their learning opportunities in the same way. So CAST is much more than CITES project itself. We have many resources. We decided to highlight one here today, which is our series of accessible learning videos, accessible learning across the lifespan. These are open to anyone that would like to learn more, and you can visit this link, and we encourage you to share them. So make sure to check them out. They might be a great way to highlight some PD for your school or district. And so we encourage you to not only visit them, but also share them. And with that, we encourage you to stay connected. Our information to contact us is available here via phone or email or website. And we hope you have a wonderful day. As a reminder, the information that we shared today was funded by the U.S. Department of Education via a grant. However, the contents do not necessarily represent the U.S. Department of Ed. So thank you to Maggie for navigating today, for kicking us off, and we hope everyone has a great conference.